Hey everybody, welcome back. If this is your first time meeting me, my name is Lucy Price. I'm a relationship coach, but here on YouTube, I talk about all things relationships, self-love, and creating a lifestyle that you really want to live in. If that sounds up your alley, then I hope you'll subscribe and join us on our journey together. Today's topic is the relationship review. When I was thinking about the YouTube videos that I wanted to create for December, I wanted to think about what are my key pieces of practices or advice or things I encourage people to do to have better relationships. And when I was thinking about that, one of the first things that came to my mind was a relationship review. So what is a relationship review? A relationship review is an opportunity for you to get really intentional and evaluate your relationships. Evaluate what is working for you in your relationships, who you're really connecting to, what dynamics are playing out, and if those dynamics are healthy and fulfilling and good for you and the other person, to really assess what relationships you want to prioritize, what relationships you want to deepen into, and what relationships it might be time to close the chapter or release certain expectations or standards around the relationships. So really, a relationship review is a chance for you to reflect, get intentional about your relationship, see what is and isn't working, and then make adjustments from there. I find that when relationships fizzle out or stagnate or even blow up, and you're getting into these arguments or there's a lot of tension, when these things happen in our relationships, I find that a lot of it is to do with not being very intentional and not really being clear about how you can prioritize in the relationship and how you can set up a foundation for the relationship to thrive. Relationships are a garden. You have to tend to them. You have to make sure the seeds are planted and the soil is rich in nutrients and you're watering the plants the right amount of water that each of the plants like. And when you're not doing that, that's when weeds come in. That's when crows fly down and pick at corn and you have to get a scarecrow and all of this stuff. But I find that most people aren't actually clear on how they want to upkeep their relationships, on how they want to nurture their relationships and weed out the garden, so to speak. Which is kind of funny because I think as people, we are intentional about other aspects of our life, maybe a little bit more naturally. So for example, our careers, we're intentional about plotting out our careers and having 5-year plans and being very clear of like, okay, A leads to B, and so I need to spend 8 hours at work and go after this promotion in order to get this step up, in order to get this job at this time in my life. Like, we just plot things out more. We invest a little more time and intention into it. Another example is health goals. It's quite common to come up with a meal plan, to come up with a workout plan, to have an accountability buddy. And we set up all these structures and we get really intentional about what we're going to do. And assuming you follow through with it, there's a lot of success that can come from that. I don't see as much intention get applied to our relationships. And I don't mean attention. I don't mean like giving people a lot of attention, because I work with a lot of people who are kind of like breaking the people pleasing and the codependency. And so I don't mean that, but what I mean is the intention, like getting really clear on what you want to do to fuel the relationship and what the relationship actually needs to thrive. We're not very clear and intentional about that. And so that's why I created the relationship review, to give you a place where you can be intentional of the course of your relationships so that you can feel that fulfillment and you can get the nutrients from the relationships, because we do need people. Humans do need connection with other humans. This is a really important piece around being a person. When you have community, when you have support, when you are connected in relationships with other humans, what happens is you are healthier, you are more balanced, you are more secure as a person. You live longer. Studies have shown that people who live in thriving communities and have that human connection with other people live longer. They are healthier. And so if you want to live longer, if you want to be healthier, if you want to enjoy your life more, then invest in your relationships. There's this quote once that when the quality of our lives is determined by the quality of our relationships. I don't know who said that. I'm hoping I can find out and put their name on the screen. But I think it's so true. So without further ado, let's get into more of the nitty-gritty of a relationship review. Some signs that it might be a good idea for you to do a relationship review is you feel like you're investing a lot in your relationships, but you aren't getting any of that back. You're investing a lot of time, energy, money, you're putting a lot of intention, but you don't feel like the other people in your lives are kind of putting that same intention in. So you're feeling that lack of fulfillment. Some other clues are you could start to be feeling resentful in your relationships. You're not feeling satisfied. Or you want to grow closer with other people, you want to form those connections, but you aren't really sure how to do that or what that actually looks like. Maybe you're really busy, you have a really time-intensive job, you have a lot of things going on in your life, and you can feel your relationships slipping, but you don't want them to. And if you're starting to feel disconnected from your social circle, that can be a really solid sign too, that it's time to sit down, look at your relationships, and get intentional. It's important to look at our relationships and look at all of the dynamics being played out in our relationships, because if we don't look at them, if we don't sit down and see them for what they are, then it's going to be really hard to change them. And you have so much power in changing the course of your relationships just by getting intentional, just by sitting down and taking some time to think things through. The other piece that I love about the relationship review is it makes all of these intentions actionable. It's not just, I want to be closer with this person. It's, I want to be closer with this person, and here are the ways that I think I can do that. It's not, I don't want to keep getting into fights with this person anymore. It's, okay, I see that we keep getting into fights around these particular things, these things in our life. What can we do to reset? What can we do to set up a different structure so that we can collaborate instead of compete with each other in getting our needs met? It also gives you a chance to see what's actually important to you in relationships and who's actually important to you in your life. Connection with others is built on 3 things: meaningful moments, vulnerability, and consistency or frequency in engaging with each other. Those things are actionable. You can create meaningful moments. You can set the intention to see each other consistently or frequently, and you can practice being vulnerable. But if you don't know where in your relationships you're being called to do that, it's going to be really hard for you to do that. I think some people can get really in their heads or resistant to doing a relationship review because there's this idea that other people are going to be mad at who you're prioritizing or who you're investing in relationships to, or maybe you just don't want to feel like you're prioritizing anyone over someone else. And I totally get that. The thing I want to encourage you to keep in mind here is that relationships can often be seasonal. Some seasons you invest more into some relationships than others, and that's okay. And the other thing here too is that everybody only has 24 hours in a day. And if you're not intentional in who and what you are investing your time into, that time will be invested in other ways. And those ways often don't have as much meaning or intention behind them. It's just kind of like luck of the draw, whatever happens to play out. And then you're wondering why you're not feeling connected to the people you want to feel connected to. It's okay to have certain people as your priority. And also, other people aren't going to see this relationship review. You don't have to show anybody. You could take these, you could burn it, you could do whatever you want with them at the end of the day. But we do prioritize certain people in our lives. We prioritize people naturally. And when we prioritize people naturally, it's just kind of based off of whatever we're feeling in the moment. This review is not to never go with the flow. It's just sometimes we're not even in a flow. We're just wasting all of this energy and time on people that we don't actually care about and then feeling lonely. Different people fill different roles in our lives, and the more that we can be honest with that, and in a compassionate way, in a kind way, but the more we can be honest with that, the happier we will be, and the more fulfilling our life and our relationships will be. So let's break down the relationship review. For the relationship review, we start off with the big picture. The big picture is a snapshot of all of your relationships. This can be family relationships, romantic relationships, acquaintanceships, networking, career-based relationships. But this is just the overall big picture that's going on. And the first question I want you to ask is, what relationships are feeling really good right now? What relationships do you look at and you go like, yeah, we are on the same page, we're jiving, we're having a good time, I'm really happy with how this relationship looks and how this relationship feels. Write those down. And then try and get specific. Try and really pinpoint what is helping you to feel so good. What dynamic is actually really working for you with this person? Maybe you were really close friends with somebody, you distanced, you fell apart a little bit, but you rekindled an acquaintanceship, and that is the perfect kind of relationship for both of you right now. Or maybe it's going really well that you're working with a certain colleague at work. And the reason that's going really well is because you set up a new management system where you can communicate and log things more clearly. And so there's not these back channel chats of who's messing up what. But whatever it is, really try and pinpoint, really try and get specific, because when we get specific, we can more easily replicate those things in that relationship. And it's also just useful information to know for ourselves, okay, this is what's working, this is what's beneficial, this is what's feeling good. It's just helpful overall. Otherwise, it's like taking shots in the dark. It's guesswork, and it's much more helpful just to be specific. And then we do the reverse of that. So we look at what relationships aren't feeling very good right now. What relationships are causing a lot of tension or a lot of insecurity or just feeling meh. Those relationships, get specific with that too. Maybe the overarching relationship with someone is pretty good, but there's like one instance, one argument that hasn't quite gotten resolved yet, and you need to have a conversation. Or maybe it's just like not a good dynamic and it's time to exit the relationship so that you are healthy. From getting clear on what relationships are going well and not so well, and then getting specific within that, we look at what are the priority relationships. What are the relationships that you want to invest more time and more energy into? So this can be certain family members, this could be a wife, a partner, someone you're dating, this could be a best friend, this could be colleagues at work who you want to network with for different opportunities in the future. But look at who are the people you want to make sure you invest more time and more energy into. And note again that these can fluctuate, these can change. Different times in our life call for different things. And our relationships naturally fluctuate over time too. We don't want to try and constrain a relationship into a category that it's always been just because it's always been there. It's okay for relationships to transition, both in developing into a deeper relationship with someone and also in separating a little bit and creating a bit of space. From this snapshot, we start to get a little bit more granular. We start to look at, okay, what relationships do I want to deepen into? What relationships do I want to elevate? What relationships do I want to improve? And then also, are there any relationships where it's time to release, let go, close the chapter? Maybe this is like sincerely cutting off ties, closing the chapter on the relationship, maybe burning bridges. If you want to do that. I try not to burn bridges. And you know, if you look at my life, I'm not sure my life would reflect that, but I try not to. I try to have that be like a lesser case scenario, because I think sometimes we're too quick to do that. But anyway, I digress. What relationships do you need to release a little bit more expectation or a little bit more pressure? This is kind of like that reverse I was talking to you about, where sometimes we're really close with people, but a friend has moved or had a baby or life circumstances have changed, and that closeness just isn't as much of an option anymore, and so you have to find a different way. And releasing expectations or standards or taking a step back in the relationship can be a really healthy way to do that. Then we get into the question of, where have I been doing really well in my relationships? And where might it be time for me to clean up my side of the street a little bit more? So the doing really well piece is, maybe you have been engaging more in conversations at social gatherings. Maybe that's something you've decided you wanted to work on. It's just your little small talk. Or maybe you're setting boundaries in a very different, healthy way. Maybe you're engaging in hard conversations with people and you never used to do that. So where are you doing really well? Giving yourself a chance to acknowledge, like, no, I'm hitting these pieces in my relationships. I'm improving in these ways, and I'm really proud of myself for that. And so I'm going to give myself a moment to recognize that. And then on the flip side, where might there be a chance to clean up a little bit? Where might there be an area for you to improve or an area for you to grow in? So maybe you've been going through a bit of a rough patch and emotionally it's been hard. And so you want to nurture yourself a little bit more so that you can show up differently in your relationships. Maybe you're a little touchy and you've been snapping at people and you want to rein that back in because it's starting to it's starting to cause some erosion in your relationships. Maybe you've been not great at replying to texts recently, and so you want to be a little bit more on the ball on that because people are starting to get annoyed. Whatever it is, where can you clean up your side of the street? And then what do you want to focus on in your relationships? What's a priority for you? What do you want to engage more in? What do you want to continue to work on? This could be like creating meaningful experiences with friends. That could be a focus for you. A different focus could be you want to go to more networking events to expand your career network. That could be a focus for you. So it can be a variety of different things in different categories of relationships. And again, we take it a layer deeper by getting more specific with a person. So this is where you look at some of your priority relationships and you look at, okay, how is this relationship going? How are the dynamics in this particular relationship? So on a scale of 1 to 10, how fulfilling is the relationship? How safe and secure do you feel? How energized do you feel? How connected do you feel? And how loved do you feel? So just on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like, nothing, this relationship is over, to 10 being like, oh my God, I can't believe I get to have this person in my life. Where do you fall? And then finally, what do you want to do in this cycle of your relationships? I use cycle because people do relationship reviews kind of in different waves. Some people have done them weekly. Some people have done them monthly. More often than not, though, people tend to do them quarterly. So like every 3 months. So this cycle, what do you want to focus on in this particular relationship? Do you want to focus on maintaining the relationship, releasing some expectations or the relationship as a whole? Or do you want to improve the relationship, deepen the relationship, elevate the relationship? Where do you fall with this particular person? And then what is important to this person or this relationship dynamic? AKA, where can you kind of get the most bang for your buck? Different people do not require the same things. Example, love languages. So not all people respond the same to a love language. If you are constantly treating your friends to meals, taking them out, buying them gifts, and you're not getting those things back, it might be simply because that's not really their love language. That's not really what they need or how they show love or what they want in a relationship. And so maybe it's an opportunity for you to think about like, okay, physical touch and quality time is more important to this person. I'm going to go ahead and prioritize those things in this relationship because that's what's important to this relationship, this person, this dynamic. Maybe it's really important for a relationship dynamic to spend quality time or have catch-up conversations and fill each other in on life. But what's important to this particular dynamic? What's important to this person? Because half the time we're doing all of these things in our relationships when we could just be doing like a couple of things that have a higher impact for the person's experience with you. So it's just, again, being intentional and really being intelligent with where you are spending your time, spending your energy, and investing yourself in this relationship and in this dynamic. And then depending on whether you chose to elevate, maintain, or release the relationship might depend on how you do this next part. You could answer each of the questions individually of these activities or these moments of connection or these types of vulnerabilities helps to enhance and improve and deepen the relationship. And you could do the same for maintain and the same for release. So like you could review, okay, these things help the relationship, these things kind of just keep the relationship grooving, and these things definitely hurt the relationship, or this is how I can take a step back in the relationship in a way that's healthy. You could take it either of those directions. but I personally just stick to whatever category that I'm focusing on. So if I'm just trying to maintain a relationship, then I just focus on the maintenance activities of that relationship and just focus on that category. You can do whatever feels like best or more intuitive to you. And then we get into the actionable steps. If you know me, you know how much I really want things to be actionable, because I feel like we get a lot of advice on the internet and magazines and advice columns, wherever, podcasts, it could be anywhere. We get a lot of advice that sounds really good, but we don't know how to apply it. And I want to make sure that we apply what we're doing in this relationship review to your relationship so that you actually see the difference. So this is how we make it actionable. We get clear on what we need to do quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily to maintain, release, or improve the relationship. So if we go back to the things that make the most impact in the relationship, maybe the thing that makes the most impact is that we spend quality time with this person every couple of months. Like, that really tends to do it for that relationship. It's just spending time, having a catch-up chat, and really sharing our hearts. That's what really builds this relationship. So the quarterly task would be like every 3 months, you make sure you have on the calendar, you reach out to this person and you set a date to spend time with them. You get a drink, you go to dinner, you have a movie night, you just sit in the living room, whatever it is. But like, that's the actionable goal. And other relationships are different. For example, romantic relationships. For romantic relationships, you might have daily things that you want to do to upkeep the relationship, or weekly things, monthly things, quarterly things. On a daily basis, maybe it's really meaningful in your relationship if you make your partner a cup of coffee in the morning, or the reverse, someone makes it for you. Maybe it's really impactful if you leave little notes, or you text them throughout the day, or you give them a call. Maybe it's impactful if you go on a weekly date night or have a weekly relationship review together of how your relationship's going. But what are the actionable things that you can do on a more consistent basis for that relationship that has more impact on the relationship? And then finally, you just have to follow the plan. I say just have to follow the plan. Yes, maybe reminding yourself could be a good thing, right? Like, yes, you do have to just follow the plan. And I know that can feel really tricky for people, but how can you put the plan in motion? How can you set yourself up for success? So for example, I create little reminders in my phone. I create calendar alerts to reach out to people, to have check-ins, to hang out with people. I actively remind myself. I actively trigger the memory in my brain to reach out to somebody through alerts, through the calendar. We have so much beautiful access to technology that can help us. I am honestly thinking of doing another video on how to utilize tech for your relationships, like how to utilize your phone. If that's something that you think you would want, definitely let me know down in the comments, but that's kind of brewing in my brain at the moment. But putting things into motion is creating a plan. It is putting it in your calendar, setting alerts on your phone, and really being intentional about how you spend your time and what you do for your relationships. That's the whole reason we make them actionable. So that's where I leave you. That's where your next step comes into play of getting your calendar out, getting your reminder out, getting whatever it is you have, whatever system you use to set up your life, and putting this in that system so that you see the results you want to see in your relationships. And so you are really aware of what's going on in your relationships and how you're feeling, what tweaks to make. And maybe these actionable things might just be, okay, I know I need to set a boundary with this person. I know I need to have a conversation about this thing with this person. I know that we need to spend this kind of time together and not this kind of time together. So maybe for you, that's the plug-in. It's not a task or a habit, so to speak, but it's having a specific conversation, spending a specific kind of quality time with that person. But that's where I'm going to leave you today. If this was helpful, definitely let me know. Let me know in the comments. You can find the link to the relationship review documents in the comments as well. So check out the description box because there's going to be a few different things in there for you. And again, if this is helpful, if you got to the end of the video and you enjoyed it, I hope you'll subscribe. I hope you'll come back for more. Take care, everybody. Next week, we've got the podcast release, but I'll see you here on YouTube the week after that. Bye.